Thinking of investing, working, or starting a business in the cannabis industry? We've got you covered right here on Plant Problems. Hosted by Tony Frischknecht, Plant Problems takes a different approach to cannabis than what you're seeing and hearing from the mainstream media. Come along with Tony and be in the know about how to invest, work, or start a cannabis business. Let's get the show started with your host, Tony Frischknecht.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Plant Problems. My name is Tony Frischknecht, and I appreciate you guys joining me today. Today's topic is going to be regulations versus location. I want to talk to you guys about where you're thinking of placing your cannabis business. It's easy just to say, well, heck, I live in Arizona, in Sedona, so that's where I'm going to start my cannabis business. I would highly recommend you do a little bit of investigating before you just open up or try to open up in that area. Basing your business in a relatively friendly area has its advantages and disadvantages. You know, you really want to know, first of all, locally, your city, how favorable they are to you. Or I should say businesses like yours. This is a pretty important step that I think a majority of the new business owners make as they're trying to start their business. You know, people say, well, we know it's legal, we know there's stuff happening here, so we can just open up our, we'll say, pot shop or our extraction facility in the city. Well, what I try to do when looking into different businesses is look at not only my locality, but around my states and states around me, see what's favorable. Now, you can probably save a lot of time by talking to some attorneys that specialize in those states. One of my other podcasts where I talk about finding that attorney, and there's enough attorneys now in the majority of these states also that have started in some of the earlier states as California and Colorado. And these guys have deployed attorneys into the newer states to help run. So a lot of the times you can find some firms that are already following regulations and making sure they're staying up on top. But as it's changing so quickly, it's still challenging unless you have somebody dedicated to the regulations part of the system. Now, finding that person can take some time, but you'll be able to find them through, of course, online. Finding them at some of these events that are going on, that's always a good place too. See who's in the know and who knows really what's happening, because these guys can make or break your business. If you miss out on a deadline of any kind, they can cause you a lot of heartache and a lot of pain, and sometimes cause you to lose your business depending on how bad the regulations are. You know, there was a time back in 2010 when we were just starting to regulate Colorado. Back when I started on the commercial side of cannabis and growing in retail, we didn't have a bunch of regulations. We had a handful of them. And so they were pretty easy to follow. But I learned a lot of this going through the building stages of regulation and working with the city and state to build these systems. But you don't have that luxury as much anymore. A lot of these states are taking the info from current states, or I would say the most regulated states, and they're putting their own twist on it and adding here and taking some stuff out here. And that's how they're expanding their regulations so quickly. But we had a regulation coming into place where they had said, okay, this is June of 2010. Said, okay, Mr. Cannabis owner, If you want to grow your cannabis and sell it, you've got to sell the majority through a store retail location. And you have to do so or have something set up and structured in place to do so by July of 2010. So we're talking 60 days. And at that point, me and my business partner had been creating a 7,500 square foot warehouse grow facility. We had all our money invested. So we're like, how in the heck are we going to start a dispensary? Oh, we had no idea. And, there was thousands of people that were put in this position of basically they said, if you don't have this done by July 31st, which is 60 days again, you're out of business. So me and my business partner were like, oh man, what are we going to do? We got to find somebody to give us some money. We got to find. So that forced our hand. We're like, okay, well, let's see who else has a dispensary out there. So me and my business partner were talking, and we just started throwing out. I like to say, casting out our lines and looking for anybody that we could partner up with. It was a very stressful time for us because, of course, we didn't want to lose everything we had. We also had risked so much to this point. So it was kind of like, doesn't matter what we got to do, but we got to figure something out. So we ended up talking to some individuals over the next month. And I think we talked to 3 or 4 individuals. And the end of June came, and we're like, all right, well, these are our partners. So we partnered up with a couple that was married, and we decided, okay, well, these are our business partners. And I can say that I knew probably 3 or 4 people that were directly affected by this regulation. Now, one of them ended up saying, well, I'm just going to grow anyway. I don't care what they say. I'm going to do what I want to do. That's not the case with the laws nowadays. If they don't shut you down right away, they'll end up fining you, and they could potentially put you in jail for breaking the law. So I knew a guy that just kind of went back underground, and I think after a couple of years, he ended up getting tangled up with the wrong people and getting indicted on some serious charges. I knew 2 other people that didn't find a partnership, lost their life savings, their family's life savings, and you hear so on, so forth, everything that they had invested. And I knew another couple guys that were able to find partnerships and able to start stores. So, but the majority of people fell out right away. And they can make business altering regulations on you quick. And if you're not up to date with what's going on and you don't have the people backing you to find that stuff out for you, or at least make you aware that this is going on, it will level your business overnight. So you want to make sure you know what's happening in your ecosystem, I would say. So, look for states and cities that are favorable to your business and want to work with the business owners, of course, creating tax revenue. And you also want to, if you get that far, you want to try and at least review the application if they have one. If they don't have one and you like the area and the favorable laws that they're proposing, then you have to get ahead of that and either create your own application or take an application from another state and model it after that so that you can be first in. That makes a big difference. So, the good part of this story was I was able to move forward. unlike so many other people, when they started talking regulations, I remember specifically the news was talking about the city, and the city is like, we're making these regulations, and we will guarantee that 30% of all applicants will fall out even before the application process. So they do this type of stuff, to see who's serious, as well to kick out the unserious people, the people that aren't serious about doing it the right way. And at the time, it seems like, oh, how could you do this to me? I mean, you're taking my livelihood. But I didn't really notice the positive side of this until getting through it. But it's kind of a gauntlet. They're trying to weed out the bad actors. That's part of this, and which helps strengthen the cannabis community. It was hard feeling that way as we saw friends and other people that we knew in the industry failing because of these regulations. But ultimately, in the end, it was a part of business. And you either grew or adapted to that, or you fell out and you either got up and tried something different, or you just folded up your tent and you went home. And that's one thing that can happen too, is you're going to learn from, if you are in this position, hopefully you take your mistakes and you capitalize into a new opportunity, because we are at the beginning of legalization still. So if you weren't able to actually succeed in your home state or your home city, good news is there's plenty of other cities and states that are doing this. I did a live Facebook yesterday on my business page, and I talked about some of the fastest growing states that are working right, and the fastest growing right now is Oklahoma. People are expanding there quickly. It kind of reminds me of what happened here in Colorado when people just said, all right, well, I'm moving to Colorado because Colorado, it's legal and I can grow. And people were coming from California to Colorado because they had regulations. So regulations are a good thing, even though they're painful. These are maturing markets, and that means the opportunities are there. So I encourage you to dig into your regulations and really understand them before you invest a large amount of money in an area and a population where you could easily get shut down or forced out. So with being able to help on the regulation side, I've got a company that I met here at the San Jose. There was a cannabis event in San Jose, and they had some pretty cool regulation platform that they were building. So I think I'm going to bring them on. As soon as I can get in touch with them, I'm going to bring them on and kind of talk about this, and open up some stuff for the listeners out there, and hopefully provide you guys a real-time system. These guys I talked with, they have a real-time systems that deals with regulations, and as soon as I get that connection, I will get their podcast in here so you guys can review it. But it seems to be a pretty cutting-edge technology from what I can see. And back in the day, if I had had something like this, a program like this, it would have helped immensely. Also would have saved me a ton of money on attorneys, because I had to have a lot of people figuring this stuff out as I was trying to run my business. I think that's probably one of the single biggest problems of keeping up is, well, I'm supposed to be running a business too. How am I supposed to keep up with that and run the business at the same time? So in some instances, this is where partners are helpful, but this company is going to provide a lot of help for that. So I'm going to have them on, and I'll share their name with you on the podcast once I get them. But that is my little connection with regulations versus locations. So keep that in mind. And if you want to get some more information on that. Of course, I've got my book that I published here in April of this year, April of 2019, called From Black Market to the Man, 10 Steps to Becoming a Multimillionaire in the Legal Cannabis Industry. You can go ahead and review that if you like on blackmarketbook.com. And that'll give you a little more details on regulations versus location. So I appreciate you guys joining me today, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye for now.
You've just listened to another insightful episode of Plant Problems. If you like what you heard so far, don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues. For additional resources or to leave a review, head over to plantproblem.com. Join us again next week on Plant Problems with Tony Frischknecht. We look forward to having conversations with you as we go along this journey.